the color of your skin? Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate, you should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God made you?
Most of us blacks, or Negroes as he called us, really thought we were free.
Neighborhood Network. And my son, yes, yeah, just turn it. Today's subject matter, we're going to talk about health with Dr. Afrika. That's A-F-K?
A-F-R-I-K-A.
Yes. And we did a previous segment, we were talking about health. Very interesting topics that my associate producer, Jonathan Sahu, and Dr. Afrika were talking about. So we just briefly talked about, then further into the program, we're expecting Minister Kevin Muhammad to come in. So hopefully when he comes in, we'll run a roll-in on James Davis, live at National Action Network, which is very interesting. You'll see Councilman Davis give a sermon. All right, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
It's very interesting in the previous show that we did about health, and some of the questions that Jonathan was asking you about Golden Seal really piqued my interest, because I've been taking the Golden Seal for almost early 70s, you know. And I thought that I went to a psychic fair, and they took a picture of my iris. It was called iridology, right? And they showed all the different parts of the body that were being affected. Right. And the elixir for all these ills was Golden Seal, and I've been taking it since, and it's always been, always helpful. I mean, I've gotten pains where I just pop some Golden Seal and bam. Or if I have a problem with my digestion, I always take Golden Seal. All right, give us a little take on Golden Seal and some of the real properties of it.
Well, Golden Seal can be used for a multiplicity of purposes, but you need to get more specific. If you have a digestive problem, take some papaya leaves. If you have liver problems, take dandelion roots.
Okay.
You have to be more specific, but for a lay person, you just say, well, it's easy, just tell them to take Golden Seal, but after a while you start learning to be more specific with your herbs.
Okay.
Milk thistle for the liver, dandelion root for the liver, papaya leaves for digestion, ginger root for digestion, eyebright for the eyes, hawthorn berries for the heart. So you learn to get more specific as you get into the healing process.
Fabulous.
Yeah, but we use it mostly as a shotgun kind of treatment for everything, as we call
Right.
it in medicine. Yeah.
Right. And my associate here, Jonathan, is studying to be a nurse. Is that right? Right. And we were talking. You two would go. Ask them some of the questions you were asking before.
Yeah. Well, some of the things we were talking about off camera was very intriguing. We were talking about male-female relationships, or should I say black male-female relationships. When you're dealing with brothers or even sisters that go outside of the race and deal with I'll say Europeans and people that don't really reflect the people that live in their village, or someone that looks like their grandmother or their mother or their aunts or their cousins, what's the psychological effect of doing these types of things? People like Kobe Bryant and a number of other people that's supposed to have this sort of status in our community, and the first thing they go towards is a European blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman, or vice versa for the women with the men.
Well, you have to be free to make these kind of choices, and to be free by definition, you should be able to practice your culture at all times and in all situations. That is, in all times, in all situations, your culture should be practiced. If you can't do that, then you're in some form of captivity. So captivity is where you get the word capitalism from, where you have a captive group which you control. So he was controlled by the media, by his miseducation, and all of this that may have spurred him to make this choice where white is right and to be free is to have what white people have. That's not freedom at all. To be free, someone in jail say, I'm free if I'm out of jail, but that's just a person in jail's concept of freedom, but that is not freedom. So he was never free to make this choice. Not.
You're saying Kobe's wife is...
Well,
We're talking about mismarriage. It doesn't matter whether it's Kobe, a black man, a white woman, or a white man and a black woman. We're just talking about if you're in a free society. That means you're able to practice your culture at all times and in all situations. That's not happening.
I thought you were saying it wasn't healthy.
No, okay. Well, I'm going to get into that. As far as the biochemical makeup of Europeans juxtaposed to, I'll say, highly melanated people, or should I say, eumelanin juxtaposed to phenomelanin. What's the vast difference between that?
Well, we're talking about how races are classified, and that's based on the melanin content of their bodies, not the melanin content of the skin.
That's right.
Because you can have light-skinned black people, so we measure the ability to make this chemical called melanin, which we associate with our skin. But this chemical is in their brain and in their nervous system, causing them to transmit messages quicker, store more information, absorb more color when they see color. They see the true color, absorb more sound when they hear sound because of the melanin in their ears. And they have melanin in their taste buds, which means they can absorb the true flavor of food. So the melanin is what we call a biochemical marker for life. The more melanin you have, the more human you are, the more psychic you are, the more spiritual you are, that sort of thing.
All right,
So when
I might have to explain this. We're just coming on live there. We did a previous taped show, so you're coming in and midway in the conversation they were having before. So that's why it seems like we're so out of this conversation.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
All right, but I think you need to slow down and bring the public. We're live,
Okay,
so
okay.
they don't quite understand what we're talking about.
Yes,
all right?
yes, sir.
Let's go. Let's retrack and talk about a few of the things we were talking about before. All right.
Okay. One of the things we were talking about before was the Kemetic people, and
Kemetic people are
the Egyptian people.
okay.
And a lot of the concepts they put down as far as medicine is concerned. And medicine meaning mid-eye, which means middle or balance, and different things like that. What are some of those concepts that you've incorporated into some of the things that you bring forth in your books, African Holistic Health and Nutricide?
Well, we're talking about a culture, and culture defines what biology is, and culture defines what a relationship is, and culture defines what sex is. All of these are languages of a culture to take on a different form. So culture is the foundation of the language which I'm using, which we call biology and chemistry. But when you're not taught that, you think that chemistry and biology is alien from culture. But you cannot have chemistry and biology unless you have culture. The whole language of chemistry and biology is culture. The trapezoid muscle, the deltoid muscle, bicep, tricep, all these words, they come from a cultural foundation. So once you get into understanding that, you're not deceived that you're learning science, you're learning culture. For instance, Hercules' brother, Ilios, he was by a watery swamp. So we have an ileocecal valve that separates our large and small intestines.
Right.
So Hercules had to get through the 7 challenges, which was deceit, lust, and greed, and all that sort of thing. And the only way to do that was get through the watery swamp, which was guarded by the 3-headed crab monster called Hydra. And in medicine, we don't say head, we say ceph. So we're talking about bicep, tricep, the 3-headed crab monster that guarded the delta swamp. So Hercules' brother Ilios trapped the 3-headed crab monster in the delta swamp and cut off his head, and Hercules could get through the delta swamp to get past that challenge. When you go back and put the words in, that's where you get the word trapezoid. Trap the 3-headed crab monster, bicep, tricep, deltoid, trapezoid, ileocecal valve. All that's culture.
Now you've lost half my audience. I know my wife's sitting on. What is he talking about?
I'm talking about the language of the body is based on Greek gods.
Okay.
And so when you study the body or study chemistry, you are studying culture because this language comes from somewhere.
Okay.
This language comes from culture. So you're actually studying culture, and you're studying the stories and myths that drive cultures.
Right.
People are not moved by facts. People are
Okay.
moved by lies, which we call myths.
Most black people know nothing about Greek culture.
They know more about Greek culture than they know about
Yeah.
African culture.
Egyptian.
Thongs come from Greek culture.
Okay.
High heels come from Greek culture.
Okay.
They know more about Greek culture than they
And
do
the Greeks
African
learned
culture.
from the
The Greeks did not learn, they stole.
Stole.
They
from
stole
Egyptian.
from African culture. Not Egyptian culture, because
Okay.
Egyptian culture came from the Mountain of the Moon, Sudan, which you call Southern Africa, and they moved up to Egypt. So we're talking about our culture as we see it in Egypt, because it's well documented, written. That's why we refer to Egypt a lot. There's a lot of books written on the walls of the pyramid, but that is not where our culture came from. It comes from Southern Africa, and we went up to what we call Egypt today. So what I'm saying is most black people know Greek culture. They do not know African culture. They know Greek food. Greek food is the hot dog, which is symbolic of the penis, which is stuck in between two buns. They know candy bars, which are named after men. That was shaped by the Greeks. All candy bars are named after men shaped like chocolate penises with nuts on them that ejaculate caramel.
And the veins on top, huh?
And the veins on top. And they're all named after men. Good Bar, Musketeers, you name the candy bar. Everybody's walking around sucking on Babe Ruth's penis. The psychological impact of this thing. The whole concept of how we eat is culture.
You mean all these candy bars out here have subliminal, suggestive...
Spaghetti is nothing but semen. And the ketchup on it is nothing but menstruation fluid. A pizza is nothing but a menstruating vagina with semen on it, which you call cheese. This is a symbolism in the food was shaped by the Greeks. We know Greek culture. We don't know anything else.
Amazing.
No, it's not amazing. It's just when you're miseducated. Carter G. Woodson said that.
Well, I'm one of the miseducated, that's for sure.
I don't think so. You're wearing a penis around your neck now. The symbolism for a tie is a penis. I mean, you're dressing very horny there. And the reason why that coat is cut that way is because that's the way they used to amputate the body and eat them in Europe. That's why they have those cuts there. Because that's the way you slice up a body to eat it. You're preparing yourself for a meal for somebody else.
For somebody else.
Yeah, you're very sexually dressed, I would say.
Wow. My
Who
public-
made those types of dress?
Greeks and the Romans, especially the Persians. At worst. But that's just a side issue. What I'm mostly concerned about in my area is getting people off of white sugar, salt, bleached white flour, and white rice, and fried food. That is my major concern.
How are those detrimental to the body?
None of them are technically food. A food is a whole thing. When you take a chemical out of the food, we call it a drug. So when you take the sugar cane out of the stalk of
Turns it
sugar
into a
cane,
drug.
it's a drug because you isolated and concentrated the substance. So when you eat the sugar, it pulls the moisture out of the nervous system, and we call that multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, chronic fatigue, and fertility, because it pulls the moisture out of the nerves fall apart, fray as we call it, and that causes these diseases that people don't associate with sugar, which are directly caused by sugar. Aside from hyperactivity, high blood pressure, cataracts, glaucoma, those are other diseases caused by white sugar or dyed white sugar we call brown sugar, turbinado sugar, raw sugar, or those other sugars we call maple syrup, honey. All of those are lethal.
So you were saying earlier the white sugar is made with pork, right?
Yeah, they use pork to filter. They use the albumin from the blood of the pigs, and it's basically garbage. It's a turd made by a factory. You take the sugar cane stalk to the factory, and the machines chew it up like your teeth. And there's a machine in there like your liver and your pancreas. So the factory processes or eats the sugar cane and has a white turd called white sugar. So people eating turds, bleached white flour, white sugar, those are turds of a factory.
I mean, all this for shock element to get you so far. I mean, what you're saying sounds very colorful, and a lot of it might be true. All right, but the way you get people to accept things is you have to make it palatable. You have to make it presentable.
You have the culture remarks, make it gentle.
Exactly.
So they can feel comfortable in their
it's-
stupidity. I'm not doing it.
Of
Wrong
course,
number.
of course,
I
of
know.
course. But even, we usually bring the truth from whoever has truth to talk. I mean, to say. So when you have something truthful to say, you're welcome here every day. But how you get people to change is that you have to make it a little bit more understanding.
Yeah.
All right? Now, you two are talking about Greek gods and the people out there, and most people that come and ask, where do you get these people? I can't understand the thing he's talking about. I mean, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Now, how do you reach my audience?
How do I reach
public
your
that I have. The people that stop me in the street, criticize, where did you get this guy from?
Well, frankly, I'm not trying to reach everyone.
Well, I mean, for my particular audience.
Well, I'm
I mean,
being
you
truthful with
you
you.
have this.
I'm being truthful with you.
Well, so I can interpret.
Let me be truthful with
Okay,
you.
all right.
I talk to people all over the world, black people.
Okay.
I just left St. Thomas. I'm going to Holland next month.
Okay.
I talk to black people all over the world. This is how I reach them.
Okay.
I've been doing this for 30 years.
All right.
If they don't understand, fine. I'm not trying to save everybody. I'm just trying to save a few good men so we can get out of this situation.
Okay.
And that's what we were talking about earlier, because I was telling him that I was trying to figure out different ways to reach different people
Okay.
and not alienate them. And he said that that's not his goal, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Because it's a way that he does his thing.
Okay.
You know, I'm trying to do it in a different way. Maybe that's my calling, but the brother is well accomplished and he heals people all over the world.
Well, the
Okay.
thing is that when you're dealing, we're talking about how to communicate with masses and that sort of thing, and how to bait them in, because everybody has to have a bait. That's what you call a commercial. You got to hook them in in order to talk to them. And you're looking at a military operation here. The food industry is controlled by military people. Retired generals sit on the board of Ross and Farina and Toyota Company. We're looking at a military approach on these people. And that's the approach we're dealing with. Everything is done with deception in the food industry. They tell you
Okay.
aspirin is good for headaches, and then it also causes bleeding.
Right.
You see, so the whole thing is all deception. So when someone bypasses deception and comes straight at them, you're going to have problems. So what we do is candy coat what the hell we're going to say. We use these cultural remarks like white sugar is made in a factory and it has harmful effects upon your body because it pulls the moisture out your system. No, that's not it. The people are emotionally addicted to sugar. They did not get on sugar because of the information. They got on sugar because they're emotionally manipulated. To be addicted to sugar means you are in search of love, because sugar is associated with love and affection. The inability to love your children, yourself, your job, your bank account is also band-aid by eating sugar. When you're having problems with your relationship, it's sugar. And when you're angry, you eat salt. Anger is associated with salt, violence. And this has been known because they plug up the brain with electrodes, lie detector tests, and give people food. And they see what area the brain lights up. So we know sugar is associated with love and affection, or the inability to receive love and affection. And we know salt is associated with anger and violence and frustration. People that chew food have a lot of tension and stress, and they're trying to slow down. People that eat creamy food want to be nurtured and touched. So we know all of these things. The snack food industry is controlled by scientists.
They know all of those things,
Oh, yes.
and that's why they develop it in a particular way to
Oh,
give to you
yes.
What's
and to
pop-
market it to you to have that, for you to have that reaction.
What's popcorn do?
You better believe it. Now, popcorn is associated with ejaculation.
So if you like a lot of popcorn, you ejaculate a lot.
I'm talking about the symbolism of the food industry. This
How's popcorn
they spend
associated with
millions of
ejaculation?
dollars on food commercials. They don't. This
Right.
is not haphazardly put together. Scientists sit down and say, "This is what we do. We use this color. We use this seed." When you use grease, you remember there was a commercial on TV with two white ladies that rolled in some mud and water and all that kind of stuff, and they protested this thing. It was called Bud Light or something. Black people said, "What are they protesting?" It was the symbolism. It was a Saturn ritual that started in Germany, where they buried people in bowel movements, and then they had sex with them. And the bowel movement is symbolic of the mud. So to them, watching two white women wrestle in mud is very sexy. To us, what's they doing? It's the symbolism behind this whole thing. That's what drives the industry, not what you say.
So when I go in the supermarket and I'm looking at all these ingredients on the back of it and it's saying corn syrup and fructose and all these different things, you telling me that these things are geared towards me being addicted,
Yeah,
and there's some sort of emotional attachment to
you
it,
better believe it.
and this is why it's so colorful and
That's
shiny
That's
and
what
it's geared
motivates.
towards the children.
That's
or
why they use the cartoon characters. You notice they use a lot
Twix
of.
and
They use a Snack Crackle and Pop, the Jolly Green Giant. They use all of these. We call it infantile symbolism. It lures you into a state of being a child when you feel safe and secure. So when you see these little McDonald's and these wonderful characters selling the food, you feel safe and secure and comfortable eating this crap.
How would you change things?
Oh, I wouldn't change the way they do it. I would change the people, my people. I'm not concerned about
Okay.
people else.
What was the first thing you would do?
I will work on
Give
one
us a-
thing at a time.
Okay.
I would say stop putting sugar on your food. Stop putting salt on your food. I'm not saying stop eating whatever they're eating. I'm saying
What
let's
would you
stop
replace
that.
it with?
I'm not saying replace anything. The first thing I want to do is stop putting sugar on the food
Okay.
and salt on the food. Slow. Stop frying your food. Just go slow, you know what I mean?
What do you do other than fry?
Oh, you can bake and boil.
Bacon.
If they want a sweetener, they can use the one called stevia.
Stevia.
Yeah, it doesn't cause diabetes mellitus. So they would use stevia.
Okay.
But they was
In place of salt?
In place
Seaweed?
of sugar.
In place of salt would
Stevie.
be
No. Oh, okay.
For starters, you can go with seaweed, but seaweed is still salt. It's still rocks washed in the ocean. It's just as dangerous.
Even
It's
the
still-
kelp.
kelp.
Yeah.
It's salt.
It's still
It's
salt.
rocks washed in the ocean that get into the plant. It's still dangerous. Just like canola oil is dangerous. All these things are dangerous. I'm just saying, we're just trying to say, look, let's go slow with this thing because it took you a while to be as dumb as you are. It's going to take you, and my intelligence cannot challenge your ignorance. So let's just go slow with this thing. Don't put some white sugar on your food. Let's use some stevia. Don't put salt on your food. Let's use some seaweeds. Don't fry your food. Bake and boil. Let's go slow for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they want to change further, fine. If they want to stay there, fine.
Give us an idea of what you eat daily. You know, what did you eat for breakfast this morning?
I don't eat breakfast.
You don't eat breakfast.
I've been eating this way for 35 years, so
Okay.
how I eat is not how the audience is going to get there. They can't get there like I have. I've been on fast for 6 months and stuff like that. They can't go where I've been. So
Well,
I'm
it's,
just saying,
it's just gives us an idea of what you feel.
I don't eat breakfast. I don't
Okay.
eat lunch. I drink water.
What about dinner?
It's according to what my wife wants to fix. If she want to fix something, fine. If not, I'll bake some blueberries or bananas or something.
So you hardly eat then.
Well, my wife thinks so, but I think I eat a lot. I run 2 miles every day and I do 100 push-ups, stuff like that.
See, lean and mean.
No, not really. I'm a nurturer. See, I'm a nurturer. I'm in the healing profession. I may talk all this rough and all this, but when I'm in my office, man, I'm just a nurturer. I used to teach kindergarten. I don't know anything about all this stuff. I know the science behind it, but I'm just I'm just one of.
So you're a medical doctor.
Yeah, I used to have an office and I treated people. I had an office two offices in Atlanta for about 10 years.
So now
in my
what-
field, I'm a pediatrician.
What I'm saying is how sensitive people are, especially when they're ignorant.
Yeah.
When they come to your office, you wouldn't naturally not say. I mean, you wouldn't even appeal to people as being superior in all your knowledge and insinuate that they're stupid.
A lecturer and treating patients is two different.
Okay.
That's
So
two
a
different
patient comes
formats.
into your office with all kind of,
They're
regular,
sick. Let's just face it. They're sick.
eating all the sugar in the world.
Yeah.
Goes to McDonald's,
Yeah, make do.
overweight,
Mhm.
got a wife and 3 kids, a
masturbate.
mortgage to pay.
Things, yeah.
No, he doesn't masturbate.
No, these are
No,
usual
he's-
things. I'm talking about a usual patient.
He's healthy.
Has one
He's
bowel
got
movement a
3
week. Yeah.
No, he's got 2 a day.
I don't know these people. I'm talking about an average patient comes in here about 3 bowel movements a week. They don't drink
Really?
water. That's right. They don't
3
exercise.
bowel movements a
And they
week.
don't exercise. And they don't drink adequate water.
You mean that people out there don't have 3 bowels a week?
Yeah. And they all use perfume-scented toilet paper, and their ass can't smell it.
He warned me about you, didn't he?
Yeah.
Brother's own
It's
point.
funny. But
So they
so-
come in and they
so they
say,
come
I
in.
have a problem. Say it could be arthritis.
okay.
And I would ask them what they've been doing. They'd tell me all of this horrible stuff. And I said, well, maybe you ought to consider another way. If they say they want to consider another way, then I say, well, would you like to try some herbs?
Mm-hmm.
And they say, well, yeah. I said, well, do you prefer a liquid tablet or you want to make them yourself?
Well, the first thing you're going to attack is that bowel movement. I mean, that's killing them right there.
No, as long as they keep the funk out of my office, I don't more or less care.
But that's not. That's. I mean, how much longer do you live with 3 bowel bowel movements a week?
Well, they could live to be 100 years old, but the quality of their life would be kind of
With their
diminished.
stomach sticking out to here? I mean,
Yeah, it's mostly turds, you know.
yeah, I mean, all that's backed up stuff.
Yeah, then the worms are crawling around, they're
Oh.
prostrate, and they feel horny, and it's just worms, you know, they're always sexual aroused. They have enough worms to go fishing, basically. So I just talked to them and said, you want to try another way? And they said, yeah. So let's try some sassafras, some horsetail, and let's get a shotgun formula from the health food store that says arthritis on the label. And I said, okay. And I said, well, let's try that. And let's do something to curb your appetite. That's where I get them. So you take something like the Crave-X or Crave Less. Crave-X or Crave Less.
Okay.
And that would shut down their craving for sugar and salt.
What is that?
It's a supplement with glutamine and other vitamins and minerals in it that shuts down their craving for salt and sugar.
Okay.
Once they take that, I got them off salt and sugar because they don't crave it anymore.
Okay.
So I've already accomplished what I was after, but I didn't go direct.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I said, you take this tablet called Crave-X or Crave Less and take your arthritis supplement. And I want you to add some fiber to what you're doing. Let's take some flaxseed meal, maybe 4 to 6 tablespoons a day. You could do that, sprinkle on your salad or sandwich. I said, yeah, I could do that.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and you don't like water. I said, no, I don't like water. I said, add water to your juice, and that way we can get the water in you. And then when they see some results from that, then I can take them to the next step. That may take a month, may take 3 months, but I'm not going to speed this process up. Because they're in a family situation, so they change
But
their
this-
diet. They're putting pressure on everyone in their family.
But this person with only 3 bowel movements a week is in deep trouble.
Yeah, they're in trouble, but it's their mind I got to get to, not their behind.
Okay.
That's why I'm shutting down their craving with Crave-X and Crave Less.
What
and
would
all
be
that.
a faster, what would get them to, you need to move your bowels. The reason why I'm bringing this up, to stay healthy, I think you need at least 2-3 times a day to move your bowels.
Oh, yes, we're talking, yeah, you're
That's
talking
normal.
optimally, but I'm
I mean-
talking about someone who I'm treating, not someone I'm trying to get on this mission. I'm just trying to treat this person.
So what do you think about colonics for that type of
Yeah.
If they want to take a colonic,
So it's the mindset first.
I'm dealing with their mind. The mind got them in this trouble.
Okay.
So I'm going slow with them because if they change their diet, it's going to impact everybody in the household. So they got to deal with these people coming at them saying, why are you eating that? What's wrong with the stuff we've been having?
Right.
So they got to get in an emotional shape for this assault that's going to come at them when they change their diet. So I have to say, well, what did your wife say? She said, you crazy. You know, what your children say? I ain't eating that stuff with daddy, you know. So I got to band-aid all of this stuff up with them, you see. So that's why I go slow with the process. Because I'm a healer. That's what I do. I don't know this other stuff. When I'm lecturing, it's a whole nother ballgame. I'm trying
Okay.
to fire up people. I'm trying to make somebody angry, get up off their behind and do something that's different.
Okay.
You know. And when I teach classes, it's totally different.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's what format you're giving information in. It's what format.
Okay.
Like, I'm talking now, but I'm using my hands. But normally I don't use my hands. But I know some people are visual, so I have to be more this.
Okay.
But normally I just sit like you are and say, well, what's wrong with your ass? You know, talking like that. Like that. But when you're dealing with a whole lot of people, some people are visual, some people are auditory, so I'm changing my tone of my voice up and down, and I'm aware that people learn different ways. That's part of being a lecturer. You got to be auditory, visual, tactile, and I'm using words like that didn't grab me, that didn't touch me, because some people only hear that way.
Mm.
So there's a whole lot of things that set up with this thing.
What about African culture, which is our main concern, and how most of the European nations stole our culture and our science and made it their own? And so as we today, haven't been bamboozled and lied to
Yeah.
and really set in last place when we're in first place?
Yeah.
Is this some sort of negative karma that we, they say what goes around comes around? Did we do something 10,000 years ago that bring all this Holocaust on us?
Well, you're looking at, you have nature and Mother Nature philosophy. And you have this whole thing that you're talking about that has nothing to do with science. Things that come around don't go around. Things that go up do not come down.
Okay.
Some things just keep going. So we into all of these theories about nature, but not into what nature actually does. Nature can put together 2 losers. 2 crackheads can have a baby. Nature can put together 2 winners or 2 losers or win and nature doesn't give a damn about all these things. This is a people problem. It has to be solved with people.
Okay.
And so far as whether we did something wrong and all this kind of stuff. What did the air do wrong to deserve to be polluted? Let's just start there. What did the water do wrong to deserve to be polluted?
Greed.
You see,
Greed.
what did they do? What did the white people do to deserve to be in the position they're in? What did they do wrong? This is a punishment for them. Because everybody wants to kick their ass. The Japanese, you know, the American Indians, black people, everybody. So I'm just saying,
In due time.
the law of karma is a theory. It is not a fact. Karma and dharma are theories. They are not facts. And I'm a scientist. I do not address that stuff. I only know why something is done. I do not know why. I know how the body operates. I don't know why. If you want to know why, you have to talk to a theologian or some philosopher. I can tell you.
Well, that's where I'm getting, you know,
Yeah.
another healer that we speak to
Yeah.
often is Dr. Valentine.
Yeah, well, that's how I can talk about it. That's what this theory stuff about, well, you know, black people did something wrong and they deserve this and that. I don't know. Nature doesn't prove that. Nature shows no balance nowhere. The Atlantic Ocean is the same size as the Pacific Ocean. There's no balance nowhere in nature. Balance
Yeah.
with bunions and corns on the
You know what I mean? Right?
Ears not even cleaned out. Okay.
All right.
Well, first thing I do is get them to do low-fat chitterlings. And how you accomplish that is boil them once and then put them in the fridge and the grease gets hard up top. And then you boil them again and the grease and you take the grease off. So I get them to do that 3 times and then they get low-fat chitterlings. That's the first thing I do because I'm going ghetto. You wanted to go there, so I'm going.
It's I'm reaching a lot of people out there now. I'm reaching a lot of people out there who say, you ain't black unless you eat your pork chops.
Yeah.
If you don't like the pig, you know, even Dr. John Henry Clark said to Malcolm, said, man, don't you know the pig kept black people alive? You know what I mean?
Now we free, brother.
But we still eating the pig.
Yeah, and the only thing you're going to have left eating that food is your soul.
Okay.
That's why they call it soul food, because that's the only thing you're going to have. You're going to lose your eyes, your kidneys, your veins, your arteries.
They don't eat the pig in Africa?
They do. Africa's been thoroughly colonized. That's where
Okay.
they got us
All right,
from.
all right.
You know?
Okay.
So, but what we're talking about is people associating a diet with a culture that's not even been defined. And that's not our culture, eating scraps of
Collard
animals.
greens. Collard greens are good for you, though, right?
It's full of calcium, but to season it with the pig knuckles or whatever they call it,
Yeah.
and ham hockeys.
Yeah, ham hock.
Yeah, that's not.
That's not healthy.
Yeah. The problem is that we haven't.
How do we survive eating all this crap and all the stress?
Well,
that,
you have to go into the slave archives, Alabama archives, and we were eating the bark of trees, which we call slip-around bark, and we eating a dandelion salad, poke salad, we eating a lot of organic, raw food
Okay.
to help drive this stuff out of our system. That's why cattle eat hay, to flush the stuff out of their system.
Okay.
So we were eating a lot of fiber then that we're not eating now.
During slavery.
Yeah, we were eating maple bark, maple leaves,
okay.
poke salad, dandelion salad, maple bark, all kind of stuff that we're not even eating
Which we
today.
got from the African culture we brought with us.
Yeah, we brought the string beans here, red onions. A lot of foods are Africans. Most of the foods we eat are from Africa today.
Okay.
But we don't associate culture with food. That's the problem. We're back to that again. We're not associating culture with food like the Chinese do when they come here. The Asians, they open up an Asian market, the Chinese market, because they can't eat unless they see China on the plate.
All right.
So we got to associate culture with food. Without associating culture with food, we can never be healthy.
And our association with culture is, you know,
Slave food,
yeah.
and slave sexual behavior. We just rape each other. We don't have our cultural rituals for sex.
How do you get to young people? Younger than
Oh, they are my largest audience, and they're the ones who hire me the most in the world.
is that right?
Yes.
The young.
Yes, the young people.
Because they know something's basically wrong.
Yes, and they can hear the truth. They may not understand some of the words I use, but they feel something is right about this. And so they basically my largest audience.
You know, I'm sorry we didn't have time to play James Davis. That's a long piece. I don't know, we're just running out of time.
I
Well,
thought we just started.
I know. I'm sorry we don't have more time. I only got 5 minutes left. What's the answer?
I don't know these things. All I do is try to get people in a healthy enough state so they can see an answer. Because I've been made dysfunctional. I think I was ruined during kindergarten from eating milk and cookies, frankly. I think I lost most of my brain then. But I think that the youth, if you give them the right nutritional foundation, they can see an answer clear.
What about us old folks? Any hope for us?
I think you're just waste of time, actually. I'm more geared toward young people. I'm not geared to people my age. You know, I'm 57, so most of my audience is not even there, man. I'm just like Henry Clark and other people his age. How many people in the audience was Henry Clark's age or Ben Yakinam's age? How many people? Their audience is young people.
But they were historians.
My audience is young people.
But you're talking about health, which is everybody's concern.
Man.
I mean, I want to live to be 100, okay?
Yeah.
So I should know from today on to listen to you and take some of these things into consideration.
Are you
Now,
gonna
what should
stop?
I?
You don't eat salt.
Oh, I love salt.
Why are you gonna say that to me?
Because I love salt. I eat salt like crazy. If you see me eat something, you see how much salt I put on my food?
You're just saying that for the program, right?
No, it's the truth.
Really?
Yes. You'd be cringing. You say, man, look at this food.
Brother, he says soul is associated with anger and with anger.
Frustration.
I guess that's why I'm
You're
angry.
frustrated, but you,
Well, I have a lot to be angry about. I mean, it doesn't show here, but, you know, I'm mad about a lot of stuff.
what you mad about? You don't seem to.
I have a good
You don't eat sugar, right?
tables on. I'm trying to tables on. What do you seem mad about, brother?
What am I mad about?
Yeah, what are you mad about? Because I seen your introduction piece on Malcolm,
Right.
and who made you niggas is the premise on why we was asking the brother the question.
Exactly.
Not to alienate the audience, you know what I mean, but who actually did all these things to make us that. Now, I understand you said there's some sort of accountability that we should have. And
Right.
I agree to that to some extent,
Mhm.
but when you really don't know who you are and what in that capacity, there's no way that you could function on that level.
Well, you know, when I was your age, I was back there with Malcolm. So, you know, I was 25 when Malcolm died. So, I remember the early beginnings. I remember the 40s, man. I remember Babe Ruth died, and I was under all this brainwash.
Candy
I
bar
got
or
5 years on you. So, you know, when we came up, you know, we knew nothing about
Oh, my
culture.
hero was Tarzan.
You know what I mean?
And I, you
Oh,
know.
God, Tarzan.
Well, I was in love with Howdy Doody. I was in love with Howdy Doody, a wooden dummy that came on television,
Yeah.
Flubadub.
Remember that?
Yeah, I remember that wooden dummy, you know.
When did you find out there was no Santa Claus?
Oh, man, that was a horror story in itself. You know, we went to the theater, me and my brother. My brother and I went to school. My brother and I, we went to the theater. And it was a Royal Theater in Baltimore.
Mhm.
And they had a black Santa Claus, man. He came out there, a black Santa Claus with a white beard and everything. My brother looked at me, and I looked at my brother. He said, we ain't getting a damn thing for Christmas.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now what you're talking, you're
Yeah,
half
I'm
our
feeling
age,
you.
right?
Yes,
Yeah, man.
And you got to realize what we went through as kids.
Oh, man.
You're talking about being brainwashed. And when I found out, I got angry when I got my maddest when I went into service. You know, and I left New York and went down south.
But on that note, who do you blame for
Who do I
you
blame?
being angry about those type of situations?
Yeah.
Do you blame yourself? Do you blame your parents? Who do you blame? If your parents was taught, and they were taught by
You
their
can't
elders,
blame
and we're taught by their
anybody.
elders
You can't
from the-
blame anybody but yourself.
How can you?
You can blame yourself.
But you were a little child and you was in front of
Because
people.
Because I'm
Yeah,
under,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
under,
yeah, all
I'm
time,
another
all
black in
situations.
America being brainwashed and bamboozled.
I'm saying at
so
that
on and so
particular
on.
time when you
You
were a
understand?
youth.
No, the whole thing about Europeans dominating Africa and everything else, they're out for the wealth of Africa. With these, all the world wars have been fought over the wealth
dividing
of
up the African
Africa.
cake.
You have to realize that you are king. And you're not inferior. When I discovered, I used to laugh at
See, but
white
you-
people laying
you're
in
at
the
that
sun.
part.
No, but I mean,
Yeah.
when I in the 40s, as a kid, I could understand why they didn't like my complexion. Because they were laying in the sun trying to get brown like me. So to me, racism was stupid from the get-go. Because I couldn't understand why they were laying in the sun trying to get brown. So I could never understand, I never felt inferior. Because wherever I went, I was...
Yeah, but you
I was a pretty one.
Yeah,
You know,
but
I was a
millions-
brown-skinned
You have
one.
millions of our people that do feel inferior every day.
But see, then you have to learn more about your culture.
I know, I'm all right.
And that's
you're
what I
all
try
right,
and do here.
Your brother's all right, but
But
the
I'm trying to
majority of
read. That's
people-
why we try. We got a minute to go.
All
With
right,
that,
no doubt, no doubt.
it's been another Gilchrist experience. Hopefully, we learned something today. you learn that you have to know yourself. Know thyself to set you free.
That's correct.
All right?
That's correct.
You have to know yourself and love yourself. And you can't love anybody else until you love yourself. So again, we go out with the God in me loves the God in you. Amen, my brother. All right?
That's it.
And with that, thank you for coming.
Thank
we
you,
got to
my
do
brother.
this again. We have to do this.
If you're off salt, I come back.
No, yeah, I love it. Oh, boy. What I replace with? What I replace it with?
We replace wine with beer.
Mix wine with beer.
Replace your alcohol. I'm trying to get you off alcohol.
That was great. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to see James Davis. I have a sermon by James Davis, which we're going to run maybe Saturday on National Action Network, and you know, we'll come to you every Wednesday at 5 o'clock.
5 to 6, brother.
I've been changed
what,
so much.
57?
56. Man.
56.
I'm looking at 56.
I got you, brother.
And during the fall, I'm going to 34.
Are they trying to change the black man around? What's going on?
So you can find me. Just look. From
like
now
the
on,
library.
Yeah, what's
you know,
going
in
on?
3 months I'll be on. In the fall, I'll be on channel 34. But right now I'm on 56. 5 to 6, live at 5. The Gilchrist Experience. It's been a good one.
Thank you.
And hopefully we learned something today. We learned that we're dummies.
We learned about salt and
We're
sugar.
malfunctioning.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean?
It's
been a good one.
Yeah, kick it around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to do more of these, man.
Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
How did one man go from petty criminal to becoming a global voice against racism? He's one of the most prominent Muslims in modern history and a symbol of black liberation who has inspired generations. A gangster, a preacher, and a revolutionary, this is the extraordinary journey of Malcolm X. Malcolm X was born in 1925 in Omaha, Nebraska. His parents, Earl and Louise Little, were followers of the Pan-African activist Marcus Garvey. As a result, their family was subjected to constant harassment by the Ku Klux Klan, who burned down their home when Malcolm was just 4 years old. The family moved to Michigan, where they were threatened by the Black Legion, an offshoot of the KKK. 4 of Malcolm's uncles were also murdered by white racists. Malcolm's father died when he was 6. The incident was officially ruled a streetcar accident, although his mother believed he had ultimately been murdered by the Black Legion. When Malcolm was 13, his mother was committed to a mental institution. Her children were split up and sent to different foster homes. Malcolm was an excellent student, but dropped out of school after a white teacher told him it was unrealistic for a young black boy to have aspirations of being a lawyer. After a few years in Michigan and Boston, he moved to Harlem at the age of 18, where he was involved in gambling, robbery, drug dealing, and pimping. At the age of 21, after committing a string of robberies with a small gang in Boston, Malcolm was arrested and sentenced to 8 to 10 years at Charlestown State Prison. Incarceration was the beginning of Malcolm's transformation. While in prison, his siblings began writing to him about the Nation of Islam and its leader, Elijah Muhammad. The Nation of Islam promoted black independence and rejected the notion of the superiority of white people. Instead, Elijah Muhammad taught his followers a form of separatism from whites, who were actually considered devils, inferior to black people who were the original inhabitants of Earth. Malcolm, initially hostile to the idea of any religion, eventually became a member of the nation. He read books constantly and began writing regularly to Elijah Muhammad. Muhammad's followers were taught to abandon their given family names, as they were actually the names of former slave owners. So Malcolm Little became Malcolm X. After being paroled, Malcolm visited Elijah Muhammad in Chicago. In June the next year, he was named Assistant Minister of the Nation of Islam's Temple No. 1 in Detroit. He later established Boston's Temple No. 11 and expanded Temple No. 12 in Philadelphia.
And those of you who think that you perhaps came here to hear us tell you to turn the other cheek to the brutality of the white man, I say again, you came to the wrong place.
Finally, he was selected to lead Temple No. 7 in Harlem, where he was responsible for a huge surge in membership.
We don't teach you to turn the other cheek. We don't teach you to turn the other cheek in the South, and we don't teach you to turn the other cheek in the North. We teach you to obey the law. We teach you to carry yourselves in a respectable way. But at the same time, we teach you that anyone who puts his hand on you, do your best to see that he doesn't put it on anybody else.
The FBI now had him under surveillance due to his sudden profile as the nation's rising star. Malcolm's rise to national prominence happened in 1957, when he intervened at a police station to arrange for medical assistance and legal help for members of the nation who had been beaten and arrested by New York police. The crowd of protesters outside grew to almost 4,000. Witnessing Malcolm's control of the crowd shook the New York Police Department. Within weeks, they had him under surveillance and officially began infiltrating the nation. In 1958, Malcolm married his wife Betty, with whom he would have 6 daughters. Malcolm's profile continued to grow via print and television appearances, and he began to gain international exposure.
Who is it that controls the prostitution in Harlem? It's the white man. Who controls the large sale of whiskey and wine? It's the white man. Who gives you the deck of cards and the dice that you use to gamble with? It's the white man. And after he sell them to you, he catch you with them and put you in jail for using them.
He was deeply critical of the growing civil rights movement and its leaders, like Dr. Martin Luther King, who preached integration.
That's what you mean by nonviolent. Be defenseless. Be defenseless in the face of one of the most cruel beasts that has ever taken the people into captivity. That's this American white man. 100 years ago, they used to put on a white sheet and use a bloodhound against Negroes. Today, they've taken off the white sheet and put on police uniforms. They've traded in the bloodhounds for police dogs, and they're still doing the same thing. And just as Uncle Tom, back during slavery, used to keep the Negroes from resisting the bloodhound or resisting the Ku Klux Klan by teaching them to love their enemy. Luther King is just a 20th century or modern Uncle Tom, or a religious Uncle Tom, who is doing the same thing today.
Malcolm's message was being heard louder than ever, but his relationship with the man who had transformed his life was about to fracture. Tensions were growing within the nation over the amount of attention Malcolm was receiving compared to his mentor, Elijah Muhammad. An unprovoked raid on a Nation of Islam mosque by police in Los Angeles led to one member being paralyzed and another being killed. No charges were laid against the police.
The white man believes you when you go to him with that old sweet talk, because you've been sweet talking him ever since he brought you here. Stop sweet talking. Tell him how you feel. Tell him what kind of hell you've been catching, and let him know that if he's not ready to clean his house up, if he's not ready to clean his house up, he shouldn't have a house. It should catch on fire and burn down.
Malcolm was reportedly stunned by Elijah Muhammad's refusal to allow any form of response or retaliation for the incident. The two also disagreed over Malcolm's desire to begin working with civil rights organizations, black politicians, and other religious organizations. Then, suddenly...
Here is a bulletin from CBS News. 3 shots were fired at President Kennedy's motorcade in downtown Dallas. President Kennedy has been seriously wounded.
Malcolm's response to the Kennedy assassination led to him being officially silenced for 90 days.
Malcolm X, you were involved in a controversy some months ago with your leader. Is that over?
Well, I've been silent for the past 90 days because of some statements I made concerning the President of the United States, which were distorted. They were distorted. And yes.
What did you say, Malcolm?
Well, I said the same thing that everybody says, that his assassination was the result of the climate of hate. But only I said the chickens came home to roost, and which means the same thing.
In March of 1964, Malcolm publicly announced his break from the Nation of Islam. He also expressed a desire to work with other civil rights leaders, saying that Elijah Muhammad had prevented him from doing so. Then came a bombshell.
Well, in reality, I never even left the Muslim movement. They put me out. And they put me out because of what I knew, and what I knew was told to me by Mr. Muhammad's son, Wallace Muhammad himself. They put me out and they put him out.
Who is the father of all of these various children whom you have enumerated?
The first one to tell me who the father was Wallace Muhammad, and he told me that the father was Elijah Muhammad himself.
And how many of these illegitimate children did he father with the sisters?
Well, he made 6 sisters pregnant. They all had children. 2 of those 6 had 2 children. I am told that there is a 7th sister who is supposed to be in Mexico right now, and she's supposed to be having a child by him.
Are you not, perhaps, afraid of what might happen to you as a result of making these revelations?
Oh, yes. I probably am a dead man already.
After splitting from the nation, Malcolm began learning the tenets and practices of Sunni Islam. He founded the Muslim Mosque Incorporated, a religious organization, and the Organization of Afro-American Unity, a non-religious group promoting Pan-Africanism. He had softened his position on Martin Luther King, who he met only once in person. And later the same year, he performed Hajj, the Muslim pilgrimage to Mecca. This was to be yet another transformative experience for him.
When I was on the pilgrimage, I had close contact with Muslims whose skin would in America be classified as white, and with Muslims who themselves would be classified as white in America. But these particular Muslims didn't call themselves white. They looked upon themselves as human beings, as part of the human family, and therefore they looked upon all other segments of the human family as part of that same family. Now, they had a different look, or a different air, or a different attitude than that which is reflected in the attitude of the man in America who calls himself white. So I said that if Islam had done that for them, perhaps if the white man in America would study Islam, perhaps it could do the same thing for him.
After Mecca, Malcolm made 2 trips to Africa, meeting officials and speaking on radio and television across the continent. In Cairo, he attended the second meeting of the Organization of African Unity and met Africa's most high-profile leaders, including Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, Gamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt, and Ahmed Ben Bella of Algeria, who all offered him official positions in their respective governments. He met with Fidel Castro and was one of the first African-American leaders to meet the newly created Palestinian Liberation Organization, and was one of the pioneers of a tradition of Black Palestinian solidarity that would be continued by the Black Panther Party and the Black Lives Matter movement. A common misconception about Malcolm's philosophical evolution is that his process of turning to Sunni Islam softened his political positions. While it's true that Malcolm abandoned some of the nation's more extreme separatist positions on race, he remained a staunch black nationalist.
I think what a lot of people are interested in, Malcolm, is whether this experience has made you feel that your feelings have changed, that the animosity you have expressed in the past toward all whites.
There's one thing that I want to make clear. No matter how much respect, no matter how much recognition whites show toward me, as far as I'm concerned, as long as that same respect and recognition is not shown toward every one of our people in this country, it doesn't exist for me.
If anything, Malcolm's travel had led him to globalize his perspective, seeing black liberation as something beyond the United States, and as something that was intimately tied to struggles for independence across the Third World.
It has remained a domestic problem. It has remained within the jurisdiction of the United States. And as such, it has been impossible for the Afro-Americans or American Negroes to try and enlist the support of other dark-skinned people who are being oppressed the world over in that struggle. And the only way this can be done is by internationalizing the problem.
If you take up arms, you'll end it. But if you sit around and wait for the one who's in power to make up his mind that he should end it, you'll be waiting a long time. And in my opinion, the young generation of whites, blacks, browns, whatever else there is, you're living at a time of extremism, a time of revolution, a time when there's got to be a change.
The Nation of Islam had not taken Malcolm's exit and public criticism of Elijah Muhammad's misconduct lightly. His family was repeatedly threatened, their car was bombed, and FBI surveillance records show that law enforcement was aware that elements within the nation were openly discussing his death. Then his house was burned down. On February 21st, 1965, Malcolm was addressing the Organization of Afro-American Unity in Manhattan's Audubon Ballroom. He was shot 21 times. 3 Nation of Islam members were tried and convicted of the murder, but questions remained. At the time of his death, Malcolm was under surveillance by both the NYPD and the FBI's COINTELPRO operation. For many, there is simply no doubt that one or both organizations had a hand in his assassination. Malcolm's legacy went on to be preserved in hip-hop, film, and literature. Most importantly, his own autobiography, which continues to be celebrated and was named one of the 10 most influential non-fiction books of the 20th century. His politics continue to inspire generations of activism against racism and imperialism worldwide.
People in power have misused it, and now there has to be a change, and a better world has to be built, and the only way it's going to be built is with extreme methods. And I, for one, will join in with anyone, don't care what color you are, as long as you want to change this miserable condition that exists on this earth. Thank you.
Malcolm's funeral was held in Harlem. Some estimate that up to 30,000 people attended. Actor and activist Ossie Davis delivered the eulogy.
Harlem has come to bid farewell to one of its brightest hopes, extinguished now and gone from us forever. Many will ask what Harlem finds to honor in this stormy, controversial, and bold young captain. And we will smile. Many will say, turn away, away from this man, for he is not a man, but a demon, a monster, a subverter, and an enemy of the black man. And we will answer and say unto them, did you ever talk to Brother Malcolm? Did you ever touch him or have him smile at you? Did you ever really listen to him? Malcolm was our manhood, our living black manhood. This was his meaning to his people. And in honoring him, we honor the best in ourselves. What we place in the ground is no more now a man, but a seed, which, after the winter of discontent, will come forth again to meet us. And we shall know him then for what he was and is, a prince, our own black shining prince, who did not hesitate to die because he loved us so.
You now use Shabazz and drop X?
I'll probably continue to use Malcolm X and I'll probably use it as long as the situation that produced it exists.
The color of your skin. Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate, you should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
Most of us blacks, or Negroes as he called us, really thought we were free.
Neighborhood Network.